Hey guys, what's up? Bites here for Game 4 of Polt versus sOs. A potentially series clinching win from sOs could come in this game if he does manage to win. So, spawning in the top right, we will have sOs, and in the bottom left, we will have Polt. Let's go ahead and bring up this name bar here, as I suggested in the comments a little bit ago. Haven't quite learned all the hotkeys for this new-ish replay system, but hey, I'll get it down. Let's go ahead and get into that production tab, because that's where we're going to be seeing most of it going down for right now. This map will be played on Derelict Watcher, which is I think also is kind of a balanced map. For the most part, drops can be effective from the Terran, and the third base is fairly hard to take, regardless of whichever one you choose to take. You can see the distance between the natural and the third mineral line is fairly long, as well as from the natural up to there is about regular. So drops and multi-pronged harassment can be very effective from the Terran on this map, but it is also hard for the Terran to defend that third as well. If, say, a big Protoss Death Ball comes and sits right here, that can be not quite fun. Probe's going to come out again. In every game so far we have seen a proxy Oracle, so I wouldn't be at all surprised to see that happening. Looks like in this game it's actually just going to be a regular Probe Scout, which is actually really interesting. He's won with that every game so far. Or he hasn't won with it every game, but he's been at least partially successful with it in all 3 of the past games, of which he has won 2 anyway. So, not a super fast expansion, doesn't look like will be coming down from sOs. Actually, I take that back. He may be going for it right here. We will see. Well, not right here, but soon-ish. So that Probe Scout does come in, and Polt's going to be going directly for a Reaper, and just going and scouting for proxies right from the beginning, because he knows that's what's gotten to him every game so far, and then he's just going to send the SCV to go ahead and scout the main. So, not bad from Polt. Like in the opening, looks like he'll be going for command center based on the minerals that he's banked up. Should have that coming down any moment now. In fact, he probably needs to get the SCV at least, like right there. Oh, he placed it on the low ground. Alright. That can always be a risky move for the Terran, as we know, just because it can be rough to defend if that's not on the high ground. If you get like 4-gated or something and you don't have enough bunkers in position, then that can be very hard to defend. There was a Zealot building on this gateway, in case you didn't notice, and it was cancelled. With the mothership core coming out, we'll be able to easily defend. Just based off of what sOs scouted, he knew it was just going to be a Reaper fast expand. So he wasn't too concerned with getting that Zealot out, and he was able to get his Nexus out earlier. Pretty common build we see from Protosses. Actually, it's been used a lot more in PvZ lately, just because it does give you... It gives you the potential to have that Zealot if you need it, but if you don't need the Zealot, then you can just cancel it, and then you can get your minerals back, and like he did there, and just place your expansion down a lot faster. It's a pretty good build. I actually liked using it when I played Protoss for a couple weeks. So it's a very nice, safe build to see, although it can be beaten by a select few cheeses. But he scouted well enough in this game just to know there's none of that coming. Also, one thing I want to point out is that back at this time, the Mothership Core vision range, as you can see from there to there, it's freaking huge. That thing can really see forever. It's like just a gigantic eye that can shoot stuff or something along those lines. There's got to be some sort of analogy you can make there, but I'm not clever enough to see it. I like how active Polt is being with that Reaper. He's making sure that there's not quite any proxies or anything going on, and he's just staying very safe from anything that could be going on. But the probe that he's probably looking for is actually right over here, and this is not a bad proxy position. You see on this map the run distance from here to there, if that's where he does end up placing the pylon, is not crazy long. It's not short, but it's not overwhelming. Now he's already got Marines in position for an Oracle, but he's about 1 game late on that, so I don't think that's quite going to be too good for him. He does have 2 barracks that are pumping out Marauders and Marines, which is good. If I were him, I would recommend getting up a bunker at the front. Not necessarily because he needs it at this point, but just because against Protoss in general, you just kind of want to have that out. It looks like sOs is going to be going for Blink, which is a pretty nice upgrade that we actually see a lot more lately than we did back at the time when this game was played. Blink wasn't too popular for that long, and actually on this map, you can blink up from here, you can blink up into the natural. It's a very good blink map. In fact, if you sit right here, you're able to blink into the main or the natural, whichever one you decide to go into. Actually, there's the bunker coming up from Polt. He probably needs like another bunker here at least in order to be able to defend from these blink stalkers. The gateways, or warp gates I suppose, are finishing up right now, and he actually doesn't see anything with this scan, so this blink attack from SOS could be game winning. We'll see. Polt does have a very nice unit count though, and it looks like he seems to have snuffed it out because he does have all those units up in a position where they can defend, and he's throwing more bunkers down in the natural. So good by him to be able to get that down. It's likely the SOS will just kind of poke in here and then get back out so he can try and blink up into the main. He does get a bunker for his troubles, which is a good pickoff at this point. Makes it a lot easier to go into that natural if and when he needs to. Polt's actually using his factory to be able to see where exactly the stalkers are at this point. Not a bad idea. And if we look at the production tab for SOS, we can see that this blink is kind of all in because he's not producing a ton off of it. He wasn't producing probes for a second actually. He is back into probe production, so it's really not crazy all in. But it's also, it has the potential where if he loses, if he just screws up really badly here, like a really bad blink, then he could lose the game. SCP seeing Polt here to repair the bunkers, which is going to be really good for him. That DPS of the Marines is very effective on those stalkers. Two first medevacs popping out, they're going to be able to heal up these units, which is going to make it a lot better and easier for them to be able to stim back and forth between these bases and defend from these stalkers. So definitely Polt seems well prepared for this blink attack. It shouldn't do too much, and if we check the oh that's not what I meant to do. Like I said, I'm still learning this. Army supply is in favor of Polt actually, so it's unlikely that this is going to do too much more. Looks like he will just be falling back off of this. He's not going to try and press the issue. He stopped producing stalkers. He's getting a forge down, getting that charge down. So I would say that Polt actually has a lead here, as kind of funny as it is to say, because nowadays we're seeing blink become so effective. It would be a good idea for Polt to start on those upgrades. I'm not sure if he knows his attack is over. He probably has a good idea just because nothing has been attacked in a little bit. But SOS is still being out on the map with these stalkers, which is good for him. For now, Polt is just going to try and kill off pylons. There are 3 in this area, as we can see. He might actually just be going out to straight up attack. Ooh, but if the blink stalkers get on top of these medevacs, yep, he just went ahead and sniped the medevac there. You can see how active SOS is with these units. He just gets 1 or 2 shots off and then blinks back because he knows if he just gets a couple units here and there, it's still good for him. 3rd command center coming down for Polt, and then combat shields is about finished, as well as Terran Infantry 1 has started, which is attack of course. Zealot charge is just finishing up, so that is going to be a pretty big upgrade in fighting this army. I'm not sure if he knows he has it or not. He probably has a good idea just because he knew the Twilight Council was there, and he sees how high the Zealot count is. Looks like he's actually going to run right past this pylon too on his way back, unless he goes for a drop or something. This Marine going to be go ahead and scouting out the factory, coming across to scout to see if there's any third over here. So now they're just both kind of fighting for map control for the next little bit. You can see SOS is positioning his units quite well at this point. He's also got the Templar archives done, and the storm started. Like we've seen in the last 2 games, it could be another Zealot Archon heavy style. Let's see, he's actually not going to catch, oh, he is going to catch this pylon. So that's a good pickup for Polt. He's going to be able to get that. Let's check the units lost tab. We can see that Polt is behind on this, but he's got his 3rd command center done, and SOS does not have his 3rd even started yet. So that's a pretty big lead for Polt, and the supply is actually about dead even at this point. Slightly in favor of Polt, but not really enough to say it's significant. It looks like Polt is pushing up into here. Oh, he does not get that before storm finishes, but he will still be able to stop production. No, it lives with 6 HP. 1 more shot by a Marauder or anything would have killed that. And he actually might just be trying to do that maybe with this, but oh, that kills. For the next little bit, SOS should just be warping in as many High Templars as he can, because Polt should be coming in to try and snipe that. But he did lose so many units going for that with those money storms hitting right here. that it may have just been a complete blunder by Polt. If you check the units lost tab, we can now see that heavily swung the resources lost in favor of SOS, as well as the supplies. So, looks like this Marine up here is just still seeing if he's gone for a third. The third just barely going down, though. Now, medevac's going to be moving out up here. That's interesting because there is nothing in them, actually. Oh, he's going to be moving up and trying to hit some of these High Templar. Not going to be too effective. Obviously, those storms hitting pretty dang nicely. 1-1, I believe, is going to finish, or at least 1-0. I'm not sure if he has that one attack. Okay, it's actually 2-0. Sorry about that. Picking off a couple medevacs here and there for SOS is pretty nice for him. The production for Polt is really kicking in at this point. You can see the units, even though he loses some big forces here and there, he's not actually, he's not dead. He's not dead yet. If he can win a fight here, or even just even on a fight, then he'll still be fine. But his third is exposed. Like I said, if you get those Protoss units down right here, it is extremely hard to defend everywhere. And we've even gotten to the point where if SOS needs to, he can just warp those High Templars into Archons once they're out of energy. Not to mention, those Zealots with 2-0 are going to be extremely hard to kill. Storms, if they storm right here, those could really change the fight. Again, I would say this army is very, very Zealot reliant. These units can get out of here immediately. Those medevacs really need to pick them up. Blink Stalkers can be able to pick off 1, maybe 2. If they get another Blink, they should be able to pick off a second. Looks like it's just going to be the one medevac, unless a feedback gets hit on that. Oh, this is so intense, just watching medevacs get chased around. Never thought I'd say that, that's for sure. If we check the upgrades tab, it looks like Polt will be starting 2-2 soon. Not the upgrades tab, but the production tab. And he's also got a Ghost Academy started to try and counter these High Templar. I would say that right now, SOS definitely has a lead, because he has his third now finished. Polt is just, I mean, he had his for a bit, but of course it was basically killed off, because he was forced to lift it, and he lost most of the SCVs that were there. So, in reality, I would say SOS has an, I mean, we always knew he was ahead, but I would say before we weren't quite sure how ahead he was. Now we have a pretty good idea that he is pretty much in the lead. With these storms hitting as they are, which, by the way, they hit pretty dang well, he's going to have an even bigger lead. Polt always has a little bit of an army to fall back on. Actually, if you ever watch him stream, which he's been doing more recently, it seems like every time he's finished with an attack and you just think he's going to get beaten down the next few minutes, he just has an army somewhere. These Zealots obviously make up most of this army. If he had the Ghost at this point, they could really tear up this army, though. A couple EMPs, and then those Zealots take a couple less hits to kill, and the Archons die extremely fast. He might be trying to go for a sandwich on this army, but yeah, all SOS had to do was really push out there. I would say the smart thing for Polt to do at this point is to try and draw that army back, or force it to go for an all-in by dropping into the main with that army. At this point, you know you're behind SOS, as you can see just by the minerals, really. You know that SOS is in fact beating you, so I think the best thing to do, if he did get 3 medevacs in there right now, full of units, side out the High Templar before it storms too much, I definitely think that Polt would be able to take a lead in this game, but that doesn't look like that's what he's going to be going for. A few more good storms crashing down. These units up here get taken out. Looks like these units are going to get taken out, and it's almost looking as if SOS is going to be able to take this series in Game 4. We'll see. The Ghosts finishing up. If they could land some good EMPs, Ghosts are extremely effective against Zealots, but are they effective enough? I don't know. Against this many, my first reaction is to say no, but you can never really count Ghosts out, I suppose. You can see that Zealot count just thins extremely heavily once these Ghosts are out. But even then, he doesn't have that many Ghosts in this army, and his supply has now dropped into double digits. The SCVs and his natural have been taken out, and at this point, Polt is just in pure survival mode. A 4th even starting to be taken by SOS. and it looks like he's going to be able to push back this force, but really, at what cost? He's lost so many units, so many SCVs, that at this point, you can see he's ahead by 4,000 resources, and he's going to have one more base than Polt. SOS is definitely looking in a very, very comfortable position. Polt just needs to get out on the map more and, I mean, straight up start dropping, do something. He's not in a position to win this game. You can see one storm just takes out a couple of units right there. It's really, really dicey now for Polt. He's gonna have to get ghosts out and get perfect EMPs and everything to win this game. This entire series, Polt's storm dodging has been very, very subpar. So the ghosts have to be very detrimental in sniping out those High Templar before they can storm, and things along those lines. Colossus production is now started for SOS. There's those 3 medevacs I was talking about 10 minutes ago, and if they had left 10 minutes ago, they probably would have been able to do a lot of damage. You can see that after Polt won Game 2, SOS has been so careful about being defended from drops. He keeps leaving these High Templar in his bases to be able to feed back those medevacs or storm, just whatever, and it is being extremely effective for him. This Marine needs to get picked up by a medevac or something, or it is quite dead at the moment. Oh, come on, save him! Ooh, he does get saved, not by the medevac, but by fellow units. It looks like SOS will lose these units here. 3-2 on its way for Polt. So we'll see what Polt can make of this situation, but it is not a good. It's not a situation you want to be in ever. You probably want to be starting your 4th about now, but he doesn't have the means to go for a 4th. I mean, he has thrown down the 4th base now, but we'll see what he can really do. That zealot gets picked off, so he's trying to pick off what he can, get leads where he can. But at this point, if these Colossus push out, I think he has enough Colossus to go win the game, really, because with 3 Colossus and let's see what the Viking count is at. The Viking count is at 1, and I believe it's just patrolling down here. So with that being the case, if the storms are even half decent, the Colossus will be able to clean up pretty much everything. Nice drop into the 3rd for Polt. He's definitely not going to get the Nexus at this point. He did get a lot of probes and evened up the supply a bit, but the problem right now is, as we can see, the army supply, he actually only has a 1 army supply lead, so I'm actually kind of shocked at what position Polt is at right now. I thought he was in a much worse position than he actually is. He's still not in a favorable position, but he's not in a bad position. I'll tell you what's in a bad position. These medevacs. You do not want to be those medevacs right now. I mean, they can't. I think they can probably boost out of there because the feedbacks won't kill them. But I suppose you just keep him in here to hope that maybe he can get something done while SOS isn't looking. The SOS is the type of player, though, that can really just be looking everywhere at the same time. This base from the natural has actually been lifted off and set over here, which I kind of find interesting as opposed to the main base, because there is still a few minerals here where there is none left in the main base. So kind of an interesting decision there. I'm not 100% sure why that decision in particular was made. But hey, I'm only Diamond. I'm not really one to question Polt at this point. SOS does hold a 30 supply lead. So things are still not looking great for Polt, but he's not out of the game still. I mean, there was points when he looked like he was out of the game. By the way, those medevacs get taken out, really dropping the supply for Polt. And SOS is at a point where he just might be able to go ahead and A-move. I mean, that is Protoss' specialty a lot of the time. So we'll see what he can do. The ghost count, if we check the units tab, is at a modest 7. So we'll see what he can do with those 7 ghosts. The medevac count is currently sitting at 5. That's not awful. It's not necessarily the count you want to be at this point, but that's respectable enough where it can keep a good amount of these units healed. Checking the units lost at Polt has evened it up by 2,000 in the last couple minutes. He needs to not lose any of these medevacs though, because he is not producing them because he has to be producing Vikings. And Just nothing really going right for him right at this moment necessarily. He has had some good points in this game, not even really going to try and contest that 4th base. I mean, he's got this base down here that he can start to mine off of anyway, so he's not going to get too risky. You can see all the units were killed off there by just a couple zealots. So SOS is really just playing perfectly defensively to the point where Polt really can't be doing anything. If he tries to drop, he's just going to get killed by High Templar. If he engages the army directly, well, let's face it, that's never a good idea against Protoss. And then he can't come into these 2 bases because there's a photon overcharge ready from the Mothership Core along with a cannon and a High Templar. So 2 High Templar actually. And with this much of a supply lead, he can even afford for those few units to just be at those bases. Because, I mean, quite simply, he has nothing to fear right now, I suppose, with as well as he's positioned his units. Polt's army, he's trying to spread it out as best as he can, even go for a bit of a sandwich on this army. He's trying to get as good of an engagement as possible. The Ghosts, let's see how well they compare. They do get some great EMPs on this army, and actually, the fight the units are looking pretty low, but it looks like there was just so many that Polt was not able to hold, and it really just ended up coming down to a click and then a few T's mixed in there for, you know, storms and stuff. So ultimately this game came down to Polt losing too much in a few good pushes by SOS to where SOS was just able to deathball so great that Polt was never really able to come back. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this game, and I hope you all like and subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, you know, like for Protoss, because go Protoss. But anyway, I'll see you guys when we start the new series. SOS does take this one 3-1 against Polt, and I will see you next time.